It is official. Anthropic has rolled out and announced new rate limits, basically how much you can use the AI platform because of a specific tool and because of a specific type of person potentially abusing their whole system. Now, today on the podcast, I want to talk about the Anthropic rate limits, what this means for other AI companies, because I don't think Anthropic's going to be the only one that has to do this. I'm going to talk about why they have these rate limits, what the rate limits are, where I think this is going in the future, and are rate limits even going to be a thing in the future, or are we eventually just going to get to unlimited free compute? All right, we're going to get into all of that on the podcast today. Before I wanted to mention, if you've ever wanted to use all of the top AI models that I mentioned on the podcast, I'd love for you to try out my platform, which is called AIbox.ai. Essentially, it allows you to try the top 40 different AI models all on one platform: Anthropic, Google, Gemini, Grok, OpenAI, everything for just $20 a month. So you don't have to have subscriptions to every single platform. There's also the ability for you to compare results side by side from different AI models, and the ability for you to have a media storage that shows you everything you've ever generated in the past, the prompt you used to generate it, and help you get back to the prompt and the chat that you had to begin with. Okay, so that's cool, but let's get into what is going on with Anthropic, starting with a tweet that they put out that says, quote, "We're rolling out new weekly rate limits for Claude Pro and Max in late of August." So it's not right now, but coming soon. "We estimate they'll apply to less than 5% of subscribers based on current usage." Basically, the big thing that I think is important is it's like, okay, look, this is only going to apply to like 5% of our subscribers based off of what they're seeing. But the other thing that I do think is important is as more and more people are trying this, more and more people are getting familiar with these tools, I think like give it a month or 2 months and that number would have been 10% or 15% or 20%, right? Because people are using it more and more. And so I think that maybe it's 5% of subscribers today, but like by the time this rolls out at the end of the month, it could be impacting a little bit more. Anyways, all this to say, the 5% I don't think is as small as you'd think. It'll get bigger. But anyways, this is what they said specifically. Claude Code. So Claude Code, for those who are unaware, is basically Anthropic's coding platform. It ties into your code base. I use it at AI Box. It ties into our back end and our front end. We tell it how, we would like it to code something. It looks at all of our code precedent. So it designs things that look similar to our current design styles. We basically, if I'm being 100% honest, have replaced our designer over AI Box with this because it's able to help a lot with the code. Now, you do need, in my opinion, a talented coder to help give it directions and to understand what's going on. You have to understand the code base you're prompting against, the back end and the front end and everything else. But basically, if you understand what you're doing, you can get a 10x on what you're able to do with Claude Code as a developer. So they said that Claude Code has seen unprecedented demand. They said, especially as part of our max plans, basically so this is the other thing with it. I was spending over at AI Box, we were spending like $100 every couple days because we're just getting so much usage out of Claude Code. And then they unveiled this thing called the Max Plan, which was basically unlimited usage for $200 a month. Who could say no? We're already spending so much money every few days that we're like, oh yeah, for like, this is a no brainer. So we signed up for that. It's kind of tricky. You actually have to message I think they're like support, or you got to do some jump through a couple hoops. But basically, once you get it, it saved us a ton of money. Now, evidently, all the money we saved, they're not happy about. And they said, we'll continue to support this growth while we work on making Claude Code even better. But for now, we need to make some changes. Some of the biggest Claude Code fans are running it continuously in the back end 24/7. All right, I have an example of one person that is doing this. They said, these are remarkable and we want to enable them, but few outlying cases are very costly to support. For example, one user consumed tens of thousands of model usage on a $200 plan, right? So you're spending 30 grand, getting 30 grand worth of compute for $20. I thought, we were probably saving a couple $1,000s a month, going like from 2,000 to 200. Now I'm thrilled. Well, it sounds like there's people going from 20,000 or 40,000 to 200. So evidently this isn't profitable for them. And I know we can all complain about that in particular. It's profit. They can't bleed 40 grand a month. All right. They said in other cases, a small number of users are violating our usage policies by sharing and reselling accounts. This impacts capability for all Claude users, and we're taking appropriate actions to stop it. Okay, this one makes perfect sense. Obviously, if you're getting an account for $200 and selling it to a ton of people so tons of people can use it all at once, that should be against the rules. You got to use an API if you want to resell their stuff, and this is for individual users, so I'm not mad about that, and it makes perfect business sense. They said from August 28th, will introduce new weekly limits. So this is the new thing that they're having. They basically had some limits in the past, and while some people are complaining about this, I'm honestly just happy that they've clarified what the rate limits are, because up until now, it's been very opaque and hard to even understand. So they're now going to have these new weekly limits. Before, they just kind of had, I believe, like hourly limits or total limits or monthly limits. Now it's weekly. They say that will mitigate these problems while impacting as few customers as possible. We'll also support max plan users by buying additional usage at standard API rates if they choose to. Okay, now this is the part that gets a little bit crazy and is reminding a lot of people of basically the drama that happened with Cursor earlier in the month, where they had a similar kind of like unlimited plan. Cursor was, in my opinion, and they apologized, but I think it was shady. They switched so that basically if you had a credit card on file with Cursor, you had their unlimited plan. They like switched without really telling a lot of people, so that they didn't have an unlimited plan anymore, right? It was rate limited. But if you went over the rate limits, they automatically build you for the extra usage, which I'm like, come on, you got to give people a warning. You have to opt in. So people were just like waking up at the end of the month and they had to have like a $2,000 Cursor bill when they were on the $20 a month plan. And they're like, what? So basically, I'm hoping Anthropic handles it better because it says if they choose to. So it seems like this is an opt-in thing, right? Basically, it's going to say, you've reached your weekly limit. Do you want to just use like the API and continue, but you're going to just have to like pay a la carte for your usage? I think a lot of people are going to say yes, because basically as of last month, I was spending, thousands of dollars, a couple $100 every few days. I mean, it does make sense, and hopefully it's not going to be expensive, and hopefully it's like you don't hit that rate limit maybe every day or all the time. So it's just at times when you have like a big project or a big deadline or a big push and you're really cranking on usage, then you could go over a little bit and make it happen without, because what's the alternative? The alternative is to like make multiple Claude Code accounts. So you don't really want to have to like max out one account, switch to the next account, max out that account, switch to the next. It seems a little ridiculous if you could be, make it all on the same account. All right. Then they said, and this seems like the final kind of like backpedal where they're like, look, guys, I mean, we're just figuring stuff out. They said, we're still exploring the best ways to ensure as broad access as possible to Claude Code. If you're a power user who has feedback on how we can support your specific use case of Claude Code, we'd love to hear from you. I mean, they're kind of leaving the door open, but basically, if you're using it and using an insane amount of money, I don't think they're going to just still continue to give it to you for $200 a month. All right. What are the responses that people are giving? First of all, I think you can imagine, and I'm going to break down the exact actual rate limits, but first I want to go on a couple funny posts on Twitter. If you're on Spotify or YouTube, you can see me sharing my screen on all of this, but otherwise I'll explain. Top comment on this, someone says, towards intelligence, too cheap to meter. I mean, and this is Smoke Away, they got good posts if you're not following them already on Twitter. But I mean, basically the concept here is like everyone keeps saying, eventually the AI is going to be so cheap. We're going to have so many data centers. It's going to be so smart. It's just unlimited intelligence and it's so cheap. It's basically free. And this is kind of the promise that we've heard from a lot of people. Sam Altman like scaling up so he can make everything cheaper, allegedly. But we are getting to this point where things are just getting more and more expensive, and you're also getting more and more rate limits, and so people kind of complain. But in any case, someone has a picture of a cat who is pondering, and it says, "We had a good run." It is true. I mean, for those that were getting $40,000 worth of compute for $200 a month, and they're complaining now, you got a good run, and I hope you enjoyed it. Now, this is an example of someone that actually was doing the 24/7 Claude Code run. So it's McKay Wrigley. He said about that, and he basically reshared one of his projects that he had posted earlier this month. He said, so I gave Claude Code a Mac Mini, and it's called Claude Pewter. It runs 24/7 and it's allowed to do whatever it wants. It's in complete control of the computer. He has a 2-minute demo where it's just like running it, iterating on tons of things, is trying tons of different projects. Basically, he's one of the use cases, potentially. I'm not sure like how much code he's actually spitting out or how hard he can push it, but basically it's running 24/7. So he is one of those 24/7 examples, and I think he gets a place in the books for legendary. Someone said, and of course everyone is suddenly going to be in that 5%, right? So that's kind of what I was getting at the beginning. Was they say it's only going to affect 5% of users, and I'm like, and somehow everybody's in the top 5%. Congratulations, you guys are all incredible and cracked. Someone said rug pulls are a weekly occurrence now. I thought that was hilarious. Also, I love complaining about this because like people you're getting so much bang for your buck. So I love to call it a rug pull, as I'm literally like getting thousands of dollars of usage for $200 a month. I think it's kind of funny. And also, especially because it's not like a permanent rate limit. You can pay more. You can pay the regular API price if you want. more. Anyways, someone had a post that says, but the sign said all you can eat, and it's a picture of Homer Simpson getting dragged out of, I think, a buffet. I think that's hilarious. Yeah, all you can eat. Well, turns out some people eat too much, so we are putting some limits on it. All right. I think that's pretty funny for the reactions. I wanted to get into some of the specific rate limits that are actually happening and what that actually entails. So based off of this whole announcement, Anthropic has a status page that shows. Okay, so another reason why I believe this is happening, there's a status page over that Anthropic has, and it's basically showing the outages. And you can also see that based off of the last, I think the last 7 times that Claude Code had an outage, the last 7 times were literally in the last month. So they've had 7 outages in the last month. Obviously, this thing is getting run up to quite a high degree. So it's, if they felt like they had to do something about this. All right, what are the actual limits? Okay, Anthropic commented on the story basically, and they said that most pro users can expect to get about 20 to 40 hours of Sonnet 4. Sonnet 4 isn't necessarily their best, so 40 to 80 hours, that's their weekly limit, which sounds like a lot, and that is just pro users. And of course, they're using like a lower model because it's a lower tier, the pro users. Okay, but what are the really what I'm interested in is the max, because that's the plan that I'm on. But I guess everyone has different plans, so I'll shout them all out. If you're on their $100 a month max plan, you can get 140 to 280 hours of Sonnet. But that's not what people care about. People really care about the Opus 4, I think, a lot, because that's technically their best model. Some people say it doesn't code as good. Whatever. I won't get into the argument there. But basically, their top model, you get 15 to 35 hours a week of Opus Pro. Now, if you're working 40 hours a week, you could almost use it the whole time, almost, although 15 to 35 is kind of a big range. And so if it's the 15 end of the 40 hours, you're kind of doomed. Also, we know that coders do not work 40 hours a week. They work 80 because they're crazy. But also, if you are on their, but that's the $100 a month plan, okay? If you're on the $200 a month plan, max plan, which is what our company AI Box has for our developers, you get about 240 to 480 hours of Sonnet 4. But more importantly, you get 24 to 40 hours of Opus 4. So basically, you get 40 hours technically. And I suspect we'll be buying the API additional credits for a bunch of our developers that want to do more than 40 hours or 24 hours. I mean, really, it depends how much code you're spitting out. But in any case, the company has noted that usage is also going to vary based off of your code base size and other factors, right? So if you have a small code base, much faster, big code base, big context windows that it's taking in and out data. So it's going to cost you a lot more. I have a bad feeling that AI Box's massive code base is going to doom us into the big code base bucket, but whatever. It's also not super clear how Anthropic is measuring their usage, right? So they claim that $200 a month plan has about 20x more usage than the Pro plan. They're also saying it in hours, but they're giving really wide ranges of hours. This isn't very clear. It's not like an X amount of tokens. They're like, look, you get 40 hours. It's like, bro, like what 40 hours? Like some lax developer that runs a couple prompts every here and there to, just get a little supplemental help. Is that 40 hours? Or is it the dude that's like, rewrite this entire feature and this entire page? No, make it like this, add this thing, like huge things. And this is kind of what I think what's exciting about Claude Code is that you could do those big changes. So I think the hourly thing is still quite opaque. But based off of the updated figures now, so they said that, Anthropic basically claimed that the $200 a month plan had 20 times more usage than the Pro plan, right? Just their basic paid plan for people. But based off of the updated numbers they've just shared, so subscribers now get only about 6 times as many Claude Code hours as Pro users. So they basically scaled it back, but they haven't updated the fact where they said you get 20x, now you only get 6x, which is still a lot more. But in any case, I think they're intentionally opaque. They're measuring things in hours instead of in tokens because they're trying to figure out where they're profitable and how much people abuse them or complain as they rate limit them. In any case, I think this is very interesting. They're going to be, not the first person that is making these big updates. We've had, like I mentioned, Cursor did this, and they had a bunch of drama about it. They apologized. We also had a Replit make some similar pricing changes. So it seems like people are it seems like this is kind of an industry trend. And I think we're going to see a lot more companies as it becomes less and less profitable companies are going to try to thread the needle of not making too many of their users upset, becoming profitable. You also could use like, basically a user that has a $200 a month plan, but maybe only uses $100 worth of credits. They're offsetting the loss of someone that might be using like $250 worth of credits a month. And so I think Anthropic wants to have as many users as possible. They don't want to like curb stomp all of the hopes and dreams of their power users either, because if those people go other places, it just makes their whole ecosystem get used less. So they want to keep as many users, but also they have to make money. So it's going to be interesting to see where this all shakes out. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. I hope you learned something new, and I hope this was insightful and gave you some good feedback from the community and feedback from exactly what Anthropic is actually doing. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you wouldn't mind leaving a rating and review on wherever you get your podcast, or if you're on YouTube, to like the video and subscribe. It helps the channel out a ton. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to go check out AIbox.ai. There's a link in the description to try out all of the different AI models to see which one is the best at coding or writing or any sort of project. You can compare different AI models side by side. We're currently in beta. So thanks so much for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next episode.